All right, so this is going to be feedback based on the 10.2 PTR changes for DPS Warrior specifically, Fury and Arms. I don't really play Prot, so I won't be talking about that. And it's also kind of mainly talking about the tier set. Mainly the tier set for Fury. There are some bugs with the Arms tier set, which we will talk about a little bit, but I think Fury has a significant problem right now with the tier set because it just doesn't feel good to play. It feels like this tier set is trying to push us towards something like this build with Annihilator, where the entire rotation is essentially because you're trying to bloodthirst as much as possible to reduce the Odin's Fury cooldown. It essentially devolves into this play style where you're rampaging, you bloodthirst, you bloodthirst, you bloodthirst, you rampage, you bloodthirst, you bloodthirst, you bloodthirst, you rampage, you bloodthirst, you bloodthirst, you bloodthirst, you rampage, you see what I mean? This is terrible. This gameplay wise, this sucks. But this also has significant problems as well if you try and consider anything but single target. Because when looking at our talent tree, you'll notice to get mainly this, the reduced cooldown on Bloodthirst, allowing you to Bloodthirst 3 times in a row because of the reduced cooldown, right? With Rampage. And since we're pushing for that talent anyway, you might as well go down into Annihilator. I tried, like, there are a couple things you can try. Like, I tried to fit in, for example, if we're not going this, and we are going Unbridled Ferocity, something to potentially do is essentially we just get rid of all of this. We go back to what we had before, and you could do this, which still gives you the multiple bloodthirst, still gives you this, but then now you're not running Dancing Blades, you're not running Rampage and Onslaught. So if you're not doing that, running Onslaught kind of sucks. It just doesn't, the build doesn't, you could run it like this, but then you're running out of Tenderize, which is okay, but then you'll see if you run this build, which also, here's another problem, if you're running this build anyway, if you're running Ravager or Hurricane, you're probably running AM, because you really want the cooldown on everything to be rolling. So now we just have Odin's Fury, we have these Bloodthirst talents that aren't that great, and when you try and, if I try and do a full gameplay of this, right? Alright, we'll pop our Odin's Fury, Bloodthirst. Okay, now we're just Bloodthirst. And then I need to replace, give me a second, I actually need to put Raging Blow back on the bar here for this. But now you are getting the crits, but you're getting very little value considering Bloodthirst is now, instead of a 0.9, a 2.5 second cooldown, or without the haste from Rampage, over 3 seconds. So you're just kind of sitting there waiting. It feels really fucking bad to play. The only build that feels good, or quote unquote good to play with this setup is this Annihilator setup. I don't even know how much Unbridled Ferocity is even worth, considering we won't be using Onslaught, but I mean, just for the sake of looking at it. But then once again, we're just ramp, BT, 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 ramp, BT, 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 ramp, BT, BT, BT. And it just it's really boring. It's honestly not very strong. There's a reason we don't take Annihilator at all anyway. In terms of the flow of what the class is supposed to feel like, this is maybe what they had in mind, but it just feels really bad. It honestly feels very bad to play. It feels very boring to play. And then when you try and consider something like, let's say we try and consider something like Mythic Plus. So if we want these talents, if we're considering Mythic Plus, we can take this away, we can come back here, we can maybe take a point out of Vicious Contempt. I mean, you could run something maybe like this, or if you run a Mythic Plus, you could run something like this. But it just doesn't feel good, man. The Fury set doesn't feel good. It being centered around Odin's Fury, I think, is decent, but one of the biggest issues that the Fury tree has is this left side is incredibly weak. This talent, incredibly weak. This, incredibly weak. This is somewhat decent with our current tier set because we're essentially stacking Bloodthirst damage on top of Bloodthirst damage on top of crit percentage with the T29 set. But single-minded Fury, these need to go away. These just need to go away. They need to be replaced with something completely new. I don't know why they want single-minded Fury to be a thing. If they want Fury Warriors to be able to equip one-handers, I mean, they refuse to give Warriors any form of range increased talent anyway, so they might as well let us transmog two-handed weapons into one-handed weapons specifically as Fury, but that's an overall system change, which that will never happen. But they honestly just need to get rid of this, chunk this into the dirt. Getting rid of single-minded Fury as a whole for Fury Warrior will also do something to help the casual player base, because the amount of times I'm looking in the Fury Warrior Discord, right? Looking in the Fury Warrior Discord, people talk, what the fuck is this? I don't even know. Kagebunchi no Jutsu. The amount of times people are looking in there, they're like, oh, I opened my vault as Fury, and I got a fucking one-hander. Completely ruined the week. Taking a piss, bad. Honestly, this section, these two just need to go away, and they need to be replaced with something else. I don't know exactly what to replace them with, because I haven't thought about that yet. But these two talent points are always dead. Nobody uses them, and they just need to go away. Point blank, full stop. They just need. The only value this has is, I guess, prop players maybe want to mess around with Fury, but even then, oh, because I have two one-handers already? Maybe you're building a move speed set like I have, and you're like, oh, well, I can get move speed one-handers, and then also get the 5% from this, and I'll be like, oh, so fast. Like, it's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. They need to completely scrap these two talents and get something worthwhile in here. If they, and this is just compound, these two talents being weak and not worth bringing at all, and these being kind of whatever, just kind of compound upon itself about how not worth this tier set is. Because you get 7.5 seconds guaranteed cooldown reduction from the 3 crits from this, but after that, Fury generally does not want to run a lot of crit chance. If we were running with the same set we have for T29, which gives us the chance to crit increase on Bloodthirst while we're rampaging, maybe that could alleviate it somewhat, but currently the set is just bad. It feels bad to play. Maybe they want a tier where Annihilator, Odin's Fury is good because they're pretty underplayed, but the main issue really is that this side of the talent tree is super weak compared to this side of the talent tree, and this side of the talent tree is very strong on its own, where over here we have single-minded Fury and Annihilator. So Fury's not looking too hot. The tier set's looking pretty bad. It feels very bad to play. Realistically, for Fury, I really hope that they can reconsider this or change it to something completely different. If they want it to be Odin's Fury centric, they need to do something else instead of Bloodthirst crits, because one of the main issues, or one of the things that's very weird about Fury as a whole, is Bloodthirst is one of our weakest buttons. It is one of the weakest buttons to press for damage in our rotation. When you run any other Fury build, Bloodthirst is the last thing you press. Even with the tier set completely built around Bloodthirst, even with this tier set, we use Bloodthirst once every now and then just because of the stacking damage bonus, making it worth. Right? We need to, like, this tier set makes Bloodthirst do like 200 to 250% more damage on average when we press the button. And even then, it's not even that worth it. So, Fury, especially with this tier set focusing on the left side of the tree, has some extreme issues in terms of performance. And hey, if they just want it to be weak for a tier and maybe want to push single-minded Fury, I guess, but no one's going to be fucking playing this. Bad. It's really bad. Obviously, until we get the sim set up and the robots come out and the robots say, hey, it's good actually, maybe I'm wrong and I'll eat my fucking words and I'll be an idiot, right? But right now, it looks bad, it feels bad, and I honestly probably won't play Fury at all, and I've already switched to practicing ARMS for the next year. Now, ARMS itself has some other issues. This is now the feedback into ARMS itself. ARMS overall, I think, is pretty good. ARMS was pretty interesting, although they did do some changes recently with Tides of Blood and Skull Splitter. And instead of instantly eating, basically what Skull Splitter used to do is you would Skull Split it, you would put your bleeds on a target or a couple targets, you would pop your sweeping strikes, and when you hit Skull Splitter, every single tick or the rest of the ticks of that bleed that was active would go and instantly tick a bunch. And essentially be a burst window, right? And some people like that playstyle. I wasn't too fond of it. Skull Splitter was annoying to play because I think I played it on like the spider boss in Vault. I think I played it a little bit on there, but I'm not the biggest fan of Skull Splitter personally. But they've changed it so now it just bleeds out faster over 10 seconds, which I'll have to see how good it is. But I don't know. It feels really weird because now you're just bleeding a little fast. I don't know. It feels weird. So they recently made that change, and they also made the primary thing that ARMS rotates around is Tests of Might. Because during your Colossus Smash window, which we also increased the Colossus Smash window with blunt instruments. So during the CS window, essentially we have more rage than we know what to do with. Like, literally, we have more rage than we know what to do with. It is so fucking hard to spend rage. And one of the bigger issues we're coming across is with the new tier set, and with how our setup of bonus already is rend damage is increased and has a chance to trigger sudden death. Here's the problem, the big problem with sudden death. And let me just put CS on the bar. I'll just do this. I need to wait for a sudden death to proc. Oh, wait a minute. I can't proc it. Accident. Weapons equipped. Sorry, one second. Yeah. There we go. Here's a sudden death proc, right? So we're going to Colossus Smash and hit our sudden death. Now, what Test of Might is supposed to do is when Colossus Smash expires for the amount of rage we spend, we're supposed to get additional strength on top of that. But you'll notice I don't have a Test of Might. I did not get any potential bonus because the class is working against itself in terms of design, and so is the tier set. Because when you're wanting to spend rage in a Colossus Smash window, which right now we have more rage than we can spend. We were picking up Ignore Pain because Ignore Pain spent 40 rage. So what we were doing is we were setting up a Colossus Smash window like this, and then we would literally Whirlwind and Ignore Pain to drop 60 rage instantly. And when you're raid buffed and when you have like what's the fucking thing? Wind Fury Totem, like you're getting rage back so much in raid. Like you're getting crazy rage back in raid. Where sometimes I will hit a target, spend 100 rage between these two buttons, and then go right back to full rage. And it's like, okay, cool. We have a lot of rage, right? We have a lot of rage, so we get a big test of might, but we can't fucking spend it all. Like we're building Arms Warriors are building primarily haste, and we can't spend it all. It's a big problem, and it feels kind of bad, actually. In the execute window, where we're literally just slamming execute into Mortal Strike over and over again, that's when it feels fine. But until we get to that 35% range, it feels pretty counterintuitive and bad and works against itself. The other problem is, even if we are in that execute window, Battle Lord, which reduces the rage cost of Mortal Strike, Sudden Death, which makes your execute cost to no rage, and the new tier set, which also procs Sudden Death, when these abilities are cast at reduced cost, they do not provide value to Test of Might. So you saw earlier, I had the Sudden Death Test of Might. So now I'll just hit a single Mortal Strike, which cost Rage. And when my Colossal Smash goes off, you'll see we will get some of that Test of Might value will pop up here in our buff bar, right? Boop, there it is. 3% strength because I sent a 30% or 30 Rage, right? But when we get procs like Battle Lord, which is good outside of Colossus Smash, because of the reduced rage cost of that and the reduced rage cost of Sudden Death, it's actually almost a detriment, and it works against itself in terms of design. Something I would really like to see potentially is because we already have while Colossus Smash is expired or while it's added, whatever, I would like to see an increased rage cost added to your abilities as well. Imagine you have increased rage cost to your abilities by, let's say, like 20-30% or something, right? So this is costing like, I don't know, it could cost like 80. This is costing like 40 to 45 or 50. We're even using Thunderclap over something like Slam or Rend because it just spends more rage. Like this would maybe go up to like 50 or something, right? That's something that I think could be a better, not necessarily band-aid, but because it increases the rage cost, I don't know exactly how it would work with Execute, for example, because Execute eats X amount of rage and does additional damage based on the amount of rage spent. But if we're already playing in a window where we have too much rage, I don't know how much that'll affect it. Maybe this will need to do a little more damage because of the increased rage spent. But other than that, everything else, like if I'm in a Execute window and I execute, I'm at like 20 rage, I overpower to get I overpower, it Battle Lord procs, and then I now only have a 20 rage Mortal Strike, so I'm back to max rage. It just doesn't feel right. Not only, and it also just, like I said, works against itself because the reduced rage cost means Test of Might also is less effective. Now you could say, well, Test of Might is the fucking problem, which possibly it is. But Test of Might is good. It is quite strong, and it is used on most fights. Like, unless you're doing something incredibly AoE specific, or maybe sometimes in dungeons you might go in for the kill. But realistically, Test of Might is where it's at for most content, right? Because of how good it is and how much damage it does. So I think they need to look at Arms Warrior's rage economy specifically, so they can actually fix this problem that we're having. Unlike the Fury set, another thing that is very odd, which is Sudden Death also make your executes powerfully slam the ground. But you'll notice if you watch, I don't know if they fixed this yet. Oh, wait till I get Sudden Death proc. Where's my Sudden Death proc? You'll also notice that Thunderclap, or I believe previously, where's my Sudden Death proc? Come on. It also puts Thunderclap on cooldown, as you see here, when you cast Execute. So it's doing that, it's hitting Thunderclap, so now also when we're hitting Sudden Death, we're getting no value from Tom. It is putting one of our rage spenders on cooldown. They made an additional change to make Ignore Pain not count. So you notice Ignore Pain costs 40 rage, right? So I will hit Ignore Pain during my Colossus Smash window. They made a change because they didn't like what people were doing that made Ignore Pain not count towards that Test of Might value, which is one of the reasons why we took it in the first place. See, it expired, got no Test of Might. So now we won't be taking another 40 rage game. We might be taking something more like Fueled by Violence instead. I mean, Ignore Pain is still pretty good, but we'll probably be taking this or something completely different, right? But that just feeds back into we have too much rage. We can't spend it, and the class is kind of working against itself. And now with the sudden death procs and getting additional sudden death procs from the tier set, it's also putting our spenders on a lengthy cooldown, which is problematic as well, because now we just don't have another spender. So what are we going to do? Start slapping Slam? Slam was literally so bad that in the tier set that they had tested previously that buffed Slam's damage up to 10 stacks, it wasn't even worth with taking all the Slam talents to even hit the button. Like Crit Cake has a YouTube short of him getting like full stack potted and everything, and it did like 45k for a single full stack Slam. Like terrible. Slam is a terrible button. And because of how we take bleed talents, guess what? Slam, 11,000 damage. Rend, 17,000 damage on application. This button deals more damage than this button by almost 150%. So why the fuck will we ever hit this? We end up fucking spamming Rend in a Colossus Smash window. It's close, but the problem right now is it's really working against itself. Which, with a couple tweaks, I really think it could actually improve it significantly. Obviously, there's some bugs. There's another bug, I believe, where if you execute in an execute window, I think that's something Critkate said. It's kind of tertiary memory, so apologies if I'm wrong. But if you execute, because execute has a delay, if you're in the execute window and you get a sudden death proc, you'll actually execute, it'll eat the rage, it will eat the sudden death proc, but it won't give you the benefits of it. So it's just all working against each other right now. And with a couple tweaks, I think it could be a lot better. And I do think they really need to consider in terms of outside of execute, if not the execute button itself, sudden death really needs to have that 40 rage go towards Test of Might, even with a proc. Because it says it deal damage as if you spent 40 rage, so it's auto assuming that it's spending 40 rage. And putting our rage spenders on cooldown is pretty rough as is. I actually like the tier set. I think the tier set's pretty good. It's a little boring, but it's pretty good. I like it a lot. One thing that's also interesting is that the sudden death proc, normally, because we are running Blood and Thunder, when we Thunderclap, you'll see that the Thunderclap will actually expand Rend. But the Thunderclap, even though it puts our stuff on CD... Oh, did they fix that? Hold up, one second. Previously, when you executed, the Thunderclap spent from the execute wasn't applying Rend, I think. Here, give me 1 second to retest this, to be sure. I could be wrong on that account as well. Maybe it was working the way it was intended to previously, so... No, it just... Okay, yeah. So no, it basically just casts Thunderclap, but it also puts it on cooldown. So if this is the actual way they intend for this ability to work, we also come into another problem, which is the fact that... Wait. I don't think the Thunderclap cause is being extended by Thunderous Words. Okay, so here's our sudden death proc, right? 20 seconds. 17. Are they... Okay, they are going the same. Wait a minute. Rend by itself lasts 27. Okay, I might have just saw something out of the corner of my eye and just been completely wrong about it. So, no, wait, yeah, so 6 seconds longer, right? So this makes Rend last 27 seconds. Huh. So the Rend applied by Thunderclap is also not getting an increased duration from Bloodletting either. So I guess that's another bug. Because if we normally Thunderclap, right? Just base Thunderclap? Oh, it doesn't. Normal Thunder... Well, it's casting a normal Thunderclap, so I guess that makes sense, but... This Thunderclap, it said it affects 5 nearby targets with Rend, but then it is not affected by the additional duration of Bloodletting. And does that mean that the 5% increased crit chance is also not affected by the Thunderclap drop? So that could also be a bug, because these aren't working together either. Or maybe it's intended, and maybe I'm wrong. I think I did this, and then I sudden death and saw that they had... Yeah, wait, look at this. So if I get a sudden death proc, and it refreshes Rend, it'll refresh Rend the full 27 seconds that it's supposed to be with Bloodletting, but on the secondary target, it keeps it at the normal duration. Wait, but now it's giving it... Wait a minute, what the fuck? Now it's giving it 20 seconds. So if I normal Thunderclap... So only on reapplication... Wait, what? Only on reapplication does it go up to the 27 seconds? So the base application of Thunderclap... Here, I'm gonna fucking... Just to test it. The base application of Thunderclap only does the base... Okay, yeah. Buggy the clown. Something's not working here. I don't know what exactly, but I'm gonna put a bug report in for this, as other people should. But I guess that, I mean, I don't want to drag on too much longer. This is already 27 fucking minutes long, but that's basically my gist on currently Fury. Feels bad. The talent tree kind of sucks on the left side, so it hurts us. And Arms is probably going to be good. It's probably going to be able to play in the next tier if significant changes aren't made to Fury. And it has a lot of bugs involved, which I hope get fixed. Like the execute thing, like this weird Thunderclap thing. I don't know why it's doing that. Among other things. So, anyway, thank you for watching. I need to cut this.